Everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to the Slowest WAAAGH, where we are playing Tzeentch. It's turn 47, and there's some fun stuff that happens this turn. So let's take a look at it. We have empowered a Daemon Prince in Death. We empowered a Sorcerer Lord in Nature. We spawned a couple cavalcades. We did a Dark Knowledge and found a Force of the Dead. Kind of neat. That takes us up to 12 death income, which is pretty good. The blood hunting is going okay for what we are trying to do with it, so pretty happy about that. And we get a couple of battles. We're gonna watch the Nehekara one last because it's the most interesting. We attack in Palea against a shit ton of troglodytes, and this isn't gonna go well. I don't know why we thought this was gonna go well. I had this concept of even after like checking them, I was like, oh, their morale's not good. They got a lot of HP. Maybe we pop a couple of them and their low morale causes them to run. Actually have perfectly good morale. They're gonna pancake this group. This is not gonna be good. Yeah. So, is it gonna escape? Is it gonna make it out? Is it gonna... Oh! Did he make it out? He made it out. So, that was a lot of dead marauders for no reason. We probably need, like, double that amount. In fairness, they did kill 11 troglodytes, so that is more than I was anticipating. Once I actually got into the battle and saw it, I was like, oh, this is gonna go horrendously. And then I was like, oh, it did go bad, but it didn't go as bad as I thought it was going to go. So, hopefully it goes better next time. We also attacked the dwarves! No. This was an accident. We misclicked on a cultist and sent them against the dwarves, so we paid for it. Figuratively and literally. And then we actually get to see a battle between Nehekara and Itza. So on the Nehekaran side, we've got some of the Necropolis Knights. We've got a bunch of the Archer boys. We've got a bunch of the Ushabdis with the big bows in the back. We've got some Sepulchral Stalkers, which are really fucking cool. We've got some of the Crabs, the Tomb Scorpions. The big thing here is that there are a few mages, but namely, there is the God, Slevin, the Devourer of Souls. Devourer of Souls is a very interesting critter. Has a lot of HP, partially because it's in its own dominion. But it also has this Devour Soul thing, which is a Soul Slay effect, which is pretty fucking cool. It's got a lot of HP, so let's see if that does anything. What are they up against? They are up against... Oh, okay. That's a decent-sized Itza army. Okay, so we've got some Skink Archers, Saurus Cavalry. These are sacrificial, mostly just causing harassment and trying to prevent some things, right? We've got a bunch of Kroxigor. They hit very, very hard. And then we have the main body of the army, which is a shit ton of Temple Guard, which are their sacreds, and we have seen their bless, which is pretty nasty. And then we have the Saurus of Shotol, which I believe is how you say that. And this is one of their special spawns. So Itza is really neat in the fact that they have a bunch of these spells, these national summon spells, where they can summon a bunch of different things. They can summon like Slann and things like that, which are really, really cool. But they can also summon a bunch of different types of Saurus. So this one is a pretty neat concept in that it what's the word I'm looking for? It tries to emulate the way what's it called in Ward, I guess, works in like actual Warhammer rules. Would be my assumption. So these guys basically have a 1 HP shield that will take the first hit. It's kind of like a Twist Fate style scenario, right? So when they get hit the first time, that first hit is going to get eaten, and then they will then transform into a different form. But this first hit has a bunch of different other effects to it, right? So they have a bunch of cold and shock resistance, a bunch of poison resistance too. I don't think that is... they might have a little bit of poison resistance naturally. But basically they have all of this different stuff, including, I think, the fire shield itself. But they lose it as soon as the bubble gets popped. And the bubble's going to get popped by basically any damage, right? Not always, right? If they get hit by some lightning or some cold, that might not actually do it. But generally speaking, it's going to get popped by almost any damage. So it's really interesting the way these guys kind of function, because after this gets popped, they lose these resistances and the fire shield and everything like that. And then they basically turn into a temple guard, right? Or a very similar form of the temple guard with just slightly different statistics. So very, very neat functionality. I am interested to see how well they play. There's a lot of different source varieties, so I would love to keep eyes on Itza, or even just actually play Itza in the future. So, ooh, all right. So this is kind of an interesting situation. Who threw that up? Itza threw that up. So Itza threw up Featherweight Army and Earthquake, and they threw it up really fucking quick because these Slann have faster casting speed. So the Featherweight Army made their entire army immune. And then the Earthquake did a bunch of fucking damage across the board. So that is really unfortunate on the side. Let's actually go back and watch this slower. So just the first volley has come out, right? And already the enemy army is featherweighted, and your army is earthquaked. So this is dangerous. This is quite dangerous. This is especially dangerous for someone like us, who relies on a bunch of low level or low HP, low protection acolytes to do communions. Now, we can get around this. We have a number of ways to get around this. But it's a matter of whether or not we will have them in time should we need to fight Itza. One of the ways we can get around this is we do have big casters in the Sorcerer Lords and Daemon Princes, and those guys fly, right? So they are just automatically not going to give a shit. A lot of our big troops are very heavily armored, and while Earthquake does ignore like half armor, it's still not going to be enough to punch through a lot of them. And the troops that we have that aren't heavily armored, aka a lot of our like demons or chaos spawn, often have a lot of HP, so the relatively minor amount of damage coming out of Earthquake shouldn't be as big of an issue. Bunch of other stuff. Quagmire comes up, Howl is up, Storm is up, Relief is up, Divine Channeling is up. Wow. All things considered, these Skink are doing a pretty good job, it looks like. All things considered, I'm surprised at how well the Nehekaran army is holding up, considering that Earthquake really kind of slapped them around in the beginning there. They lost a shit ton of archers just to the Earthquake, and a lot of their units were smashed by it as well. So anyways, other things that we could do aside from just having big casters is we can cast our own featherweight armies. The issue with that is we're never going to beat the fastest casting that can come out from these types of situations. Even with, like, magic helms and things like that. We have some other secret options, though, and that is things like Rings of Levitation, which we actually have a pretty high amount of air, and we now have hammers, so we could just make a bunch of Rings of Levitation, and be like, okay, so the acolytes that we need are now protected from things like Earthquake. And then we also have our eternal potential use of Village in the innate cast speed kind of scenario, which should outspeed even a faster casting Earthquake. But yeah, so this is a pretty interesting battle. That was 257 kills out of these 5th generation Slans. Most of that is going to have come from that initial Earthquake. I say most of that. Probably not. No, actually, definitely not. A fair amount of that probably came from that first Earthquake, in the fact that it killed almost all of the light archers, but it didn't actually kill a lot of other things. So actually, most of this is probably from that divine channeling and then just a lot of banishments. So that's a lot of work done out of these 5th generation Slans with banishments. And you can see there were only 316 units here on the side of Nehekhara. Look at how many got actually killed, though. There's over double that got killed, and that is a very Nehekharan thing. These guys are very good at summoning more undead troops, either through Horde of Skeletons or Raised Dead in general. So, still, that being said, while this was a pretty hefty loss for Nehekhara, especially in the fact that they don't really have much that they can replace this with, I would assume. This is on their capital. What are you doing? Get back. Get back. Get back, kitty cat. Get back. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like I'm the one in the wrong here. What? Anyways, while this is probably a crushing loss for Nehekhara, they did actually do a pretty good amount of damage to the side of Itza. Lost 2 Cynocephalian Shamans, lost 15 Skink Priests, lost 3 Skink Shamans, 55... You know what? Let's watch this again. I feel like this is maybe a replay bug. Did they burn out a communion back here? Yeah, they burned out a communion back here. Oh, that is kind of the Itzan way. A couple of these guys still have their bubbles unpopped. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder on this. I wonder on whether or not this is a replay bug or not, because it looks like no, because if the Slans were set to cast at the same time, the Featherweight would always come out before the Earthquake would. But it didn't look like all those archers died. The Skink Priests surprised me, but it didn't look like those archers all died. Maybe after they ran in? That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right at all. I feel like this is a replay bug. I feel like we did not get the entirety of the situation. So the Skink Priests got burned out because they are communion slaves. That is not especially surprising. The loss of the 3 Skink Shamans, the loss of the 2 Cynocephalian Shamans, That's more of a question mark. I am somewhat interested. I think I know what happened. Huh. Yeah, because this does not seem correct. It might be, but this does not seem correct. I'm kind of remembering. Maybe this happens later, but I feel like maybe the Devourer of Souls stuck around and caused more mayhem before running. I don't know. Anyways, really interesting tech coming out from Itza. The whole skink priests scenario, it feels like they are just almost always meant to die to the salons. Just because, my god, the salons pull out so much fucking heat in a communion. But yeah, anyways, Itza's very, very scary. They seem very, very scary. They seem like a very scary nation to try to have to face, especially since they've already gotten some magic online. I think the only thing that is maybe kind of like a savior here is it doesn't look like they have much in the way of defenses yet, right? Like, we're not seeing... Actually, yeah, we're not really seeing a lot of, like, defensive buffs. There's not, like, a bunch of protection buffs going out. There's not, like, Army of Mists going out. That type of stuff. So, it might be a situation where they've got a lot of, like, artillery in the can, but maybe not a lot of survivability so far. That's going to change really quick, though, because we already know that they are in the lead, or were in the lead on research. I assume they probably have maintained that lead. So yeah, anyways, this is very scary. Yikes. Anyways, moving on. Fifth gate, we get 4 or 5 blue, can't count. 5 blue horrors, 2 pink horrors, and a scrimmer. Very nice. We need 53 more secrets for the next one. Unexpected events in Umpholia. We've got 200% tax and minus 14 unrest. That's pretty nice. In Ard, we get a not so nice thing. War has broken out between the local lords of the land, so 27 unrest. We lose a fair amount of population just straight out, and then 2,000 people leave. Part of those 2,000 people go to Tzeentch. Which, you know, silver lining, I suppose, and then we get some nature gems in Divine Ocean. What are we doing this turn? The red arrows continue. So the vast majority of our gold spent this turn is spent on new units, trying to, like, really finalize the amount of new units that we're going to be getting right before the push. And I kind of want to talk about this impending war against Nagaron. Part of the reason why we aggressed on Nagaron when we did was because of the impending power spike that we're about to have. So that, I think, is a good decision. You should be aware of when you are going to spike in power, and you should use those spikes in power to try to take on new opponents and really kind of like push that power curve. So that is a part of it. The other reason why we kind of went with the concept of taking on Nagaron, aside from the fact that our Dominion had been pushing them, is that I had heard through the grapevine that while Itza was at war with Nehekara, and Nagaron was at war with Nehekara, Nagaron, I think, had basically been out of it, so it wasn't like them being engaged was the focus for us. What was a potential focus for us was I had heard through the grapevine that Khorne was attacking Itza. Not necessarily in defense of Nehekara, but kind of, you know, in response to the distraction of Nehekara or something like that. That doesn't seem to be happening, or seem to have been happening. Now, I don't know if the information that I got was incorrect, or if it just hasn't happened yet. But regardless, it's not syncing up with the timeline in which we are attacking Nagaron, so we may have jumped the gun a little bit on that particular front, right? Like the concept of, and why would we attack Nagaron if Khorne is attacking Itza? Well, part of the reason why is if we attacked Nagaron, Itza could move against us in defense of Nagaron, right? If they had nothing else checking them. And it wouldn't be a silly move for them to do that. They could take like portions of Middenheim, Nagaron could take our heartlands. It would be good for both of those nations, which otherwise have not had a lot of push outside of their natural borders, right? The other scenario, though, is by the concept of Khorne attacking Itza, we have Khorne, who is one of the strongest, like, militarily nations and blessed nations, I think, on the map right now, versus Itza, which is, like, the research leader and the scary magic person. Those two going at it, if we attack Nagaron and win in decent order, one, that kind of prevents Itza from potentially engaging us, but two, if we're doing well and Khorne and Itza are fighting it out, then we might also be able to turn on Itza and very greedily take stuff from them as well. So that was another reason why we were going for Nagaron in this particular regard, and also another reason why we really wanted to have two decently sized armies to take advantage of the tech that we had at this current point in time. It's also a reason why I was very focused on what are Itza's capabilities in this battle and what can we do about it. And unfortunately, we can't do much about it at this particular moment. So, that being said, again, the information that I had there was either incorrect or mistimed, because it doesn't seem as if Khorne is going against Itza at this particular moment. So we may have jumped to the gun a little bit in that information, but I think we're still doing the right thing by taking advantage of the tech that we're going to have. So next turn, we will have Alt 8, and Alt 8 will give us access to Army of Mist, which is the main thing that we are concerned about. And that will be relatively easy for us to do. It'll also give us access to all of the res buffs, or at least one version of all the res buffs, as well as some other things, though probably will be more focused on Army of Shades. Oh, and Marble Army, of course, right? So Marble Army, Army of Mist, Army of Shades, Army of Giants. Those are probably like the big things that we're looking to cast in the coming battles, right? Aside from grabbing Alt 8, we are going to be grabbing Thaumaturgy 5 next turn as well. And this is for basically one specific purpose. This does give us access to a couple of different things. Group Luck is useful, right? Doing things like Ravenous Swarm in the right instances can be useful to us. Nagaron could be using a lot of undead troops. We don't know. Soul Slay, always useful. Really, though, we are doing this specifically for Teleport Item. Because, again, we kind of jumped the gun on what we're trying to accomplish here, and we want to have some particular items in some of these upcoming potential battles, but I also want to move, right? We ended our nap a couple turns ago with the intention of attacking on the turn right after we get Alt 8, and then I fucked up the timing on hitting construction concepts that we wanted, item concepts that we wanted, and hitting the goal for actual having Alteration 8. So Teleport Item allows us to kind of hotfix that. And there are a couple of different things that we have or that we kind of want that will be useful there. So I think teleport item is a super interesting option in Dominion 6 compared to Dominions 5. I think it's a really, really neat functionality, and I haven't really utilized it yet in a multiplayer game, but I'm actually really excited to try to mess around with it and see. It's kind of fun. Now, I think, one of the best things that you can, or one of the, obviously, it's just nice to be able to go, oh, this army needs this item, here you go, right? That's fine. But it's also really cool to be able to be like, hey, this person doesn't, I don't have this item on this person right now. I can surprise the enemy by teleporting the item onto said person, and maybe that makes a big difference, right? So I think that's a pretty cool spell, especially for only being Thaumaturgy 5. Then we're going to run up Enchantment 7, which gives us access to a number of different things. Mainly, I am concerned about poisons, so Serpent's Blessing is kind of the big one. Featherweight Army is there, and that is a future investment. Anti-magic, always an important thing, of course. Steel Slice Warriors, potentially quite useful depending on the situation. Hail of Burning Embers, also potentially useful for us, so that we don't have to do the lower version. And then, of course, Enchantment 8 is very big, again, with more of the resistances, but Soaring Army and Army Regeneration also being quite big as well. So we're probably going to go for Enchantment 8 immediately afterwards, right? So, anything big to really talk about? Because there's so much red moving on the map that it's going to be difficult to really talk about all of the things that we're doing. I think one of the big things that we're doing is we are moving our Blood Hunting province off of the border, kind of, and into Anvas. Now, Anvas is a high population center, and it's not necessarily something we want to do, but it's not very smart for us to just sit on the border. We're also throwing little raid defense provinces all around, because I think it's entirely possible that when that turn is done, right, Nagaron has no reason to just sit around. They could very well do some remote attacks and try to raid us down. And we have vulnerable temples here, so I don't really want to just lose temples for nothing. That might happen anyways, but I would rather we try to deal a little bit of damage here or there, right? We are having to split this force. Again, kind of mistimed, but some of the force is coming into Traveler's Rest, some of it's coming into Cormark. Part of that is intentional, part of it is not intentional. So we will have threats for basically the entirety of this border. And then we have the main force of Tzeentch coming in as well. So this one is set and prepped to do the majority of the things that we are already wanting to do, right? We're going to have Army of Shades up in here. We are going to have things like... We are going to have things like Army of Giants. We are going to have things like Marble Warriors. All of that is kind of prepped and ready to utilize. It's just a matter of hitting the next turn, and then we have the stuff to do it. One of those things that we're going to need to have is a Sky Metal Matrix for one of our Shamans. That will be one of the things that we are teleporting out. As well as a Moonvine Bracelet will be teleported out. We're also going to have a Ring of the False Prophet teleporting out, because while we do not have much of a bless, it is nice to have that bless. The fire resistance especially, the magic resistance a little bit, right? And just having the extra morale. So we're actually probably going to be teleporting the Ring of the False Prophet onto Ballin, which I think is a great person, or a great Daemon Prince to be our false prophet. Because that just makes sense to me in my head. And that's useful to us, right? Because we do not have H3s, so having a flying, teleporting H3 is potentially quite useful to us. So we might actually make more of these and have a couple of different daemon princes that are kind of like, these are our leader princes doing that type of shit. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, pretty simple setup right now. Nothing crazy going on. Got a fair number of chaos spawn. Mostly we're relying on the fact that chaos or chosen knights are nasty. Throwing up stuff like Marble Warriors, Army of Mists, is going to turn these guys into just incredible assholes to try to deal with. I will say, throwing on something like Army of Giants might not be the best idea right now, so we might end up avoiding that because it does fuck with their attack density. But I think it's worth it after we also get Army Regeneration, because then it just makes them quite a bit more tanky, right? Just something to consider, right? Something to consider. We're also going back underground. We've got a bigger force. I guess not a bigger force, but maybe a harder hitting force. Way less warhounds coming into the troglodytes. Hopefully we will take these troglodytes. There's only around 30 of them left. And then we'll be threatening the underground for Nagrand. If that doesn't work, we are investing in cavemen for the underground as a response to what might be a very poor decision, Summoner. Anything else interesting happening this turn? We are empowering further in death for Zan. And we are making a couple of other different things here or there. We're making another Ring of Regeneration. We're making some more amulets of anti-magic. And I think that is mostly it. So, next turn should be the big turn when we actually start declaring attacks. I got a couple of different plans here or there. A bunch of different, like, you know, Marauder raiding squads, a couple of different, like, little magic squads, a bunch of different ideas on potentially what we can do, and hopefully it goes well. Last little check, as per normal, before we leave. Let's see how we are doing on our Dominion spread. We have 1. We lost Walnut Woods, unfortunately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've got 14, 15, 16. So not too bad. I think a little bit down from last turn, but overall pretty decent. Pretty excited about that. We're going to try to keep eyes on things. We do have a bunch of scouts in the southern Kidzin, northern Nagrand area. We don't have a lot of scouts in other places. I wish we had more scouts. I wish we had eyes of God. Oh, I didn't talk about this. A dire portent got put up by the elves. They put up Gates of Horde and Ivory, which is concerning. Actually, every time we see a dire portent, every time we see a global go up, it's concerning. Every single time I see a global, I'm like, did we just lose Eternal Pyre? But we did not, so fingers crossed it stays that way. Oh, this did pop Riches from Beneath from the dwarves, I believe is what got popped. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, that's cool. I think that's probably it for the turn. A couple of things should be exciting as we move forward into the next couple of turns and battle begins with Nagrand. I'm a little worried, but it should be good. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.